everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. And I'm really excited today. We are starting a little series. We're going to be doing, I think, 5 episodes where we are talking about our favorite movies of the 2000s from 2000 to 2025. And because, I just realized I'm like, it's 25 years. Like, we're a quarter of the way done this century. That's crazy. And it seemed like it would be a fun little ranking to do and to talk about. And I am film critic Grace Wagner, and Alise Chaffins is here. And thanks for doing this.
Yeah, this is super fun. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And just warn people that this is a favorite list, not a
Yes.
necessarily best list.
Yeah. I only have two Best Picture winners in this list. It's I thought it might be kind of fun to, before we start, to kind of share our paradigm. That's what we call it. That's what they call it in debate, but like sort of your your favorites and what you tend to which you tend to gravitate to. I mean, none of this will be a surprise to viewers and listeners. For me, because they know me, but they might not be as well. Where and It's just because it would make some of my choices less surprising. But like most people know I love rom-coms, I love musicals, and I love animation. So there's a heavy, heavy dominating on these 25 picks and period pieces. I love period pieces. What about you? What would you say your kind of paradigm is? Things you gravitate towards?
Yeah, so I love horror movies. But ultimately, I'm mostly just a story first person. That's always going to be the thing that like grabs me. And
Uh-huh.
the kind of stories that really tend to move me are stories about families and stories about friends. And so you'll kind of see like,
Mm,
so some of my films will seem really out there, I think. But when you keep that in mind, that like what I really love are movies about family and movies about friends, then it'll probably that's probably the most like cohesive theme through this list
yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's pretty eclectic.
And I
And it
really
was so hard.
Yeah. And I really tried. There were movies on here that I had that I really admire, but I asked myself, do I love it? Like, what's the one that I like? A hard cut for me was Boyhood. I I
Mm.
I do really admire it, and I really loved it, but like I've only seen it twice. Can I put it above? Like, this is an all-timer list, you know? So there were some very tough cuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's dive in. Just gonna talk about our 41 through 50. Yeah, like I said, it was a bloodbath. I mean, some of the ones I had to cut, and even some of these, you're gonna be like, I can't believe you have it that low because it's hard. 25 years of movies. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, I tried to pick something from every year. So there were some from years that like I just ran out of space because I really did want every year
Yeah.
to be like represented. So
Mm-hmm.
in that regard, like, yeah, there are probably a few that didn't make the cut
Yeah.
and some that did, maybe. And yeah,
Yeah.
when it gets to ranking, other than like maybe the top 10, I'll say this like bottom 40 is a pretty whooshy mix here.
Yeah.
So
Are you a fan of Rachel's Reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
Well, let's dive in.
yeah.
Let's do it. So at number 50, I have Love, Simon at number
Mm.
50. I
Oh.
really did love this movie. I thought it had such heart and soul. I thought it did such a good job of portraying Simon's struggle his you really felt for him. I loved the dynamic between him and his parents. Both of those relationships I thought were so well done and authentic. His relationship with his sister was very sweet. The bully kid was a little bit annoying, like he's supposed to be, but it was a little much. But other than that, I just thought it hit every note. And there have been so many and there have been so many coming out movies and stories, and I think that's great. But this to me was the best one of any that I've ever seen. I just really admired it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's lovely. Yeah, so my number 50 is the 2001 film Spy Kids, which kicked
Ah?
off like a whole franchise. And I will say for
Uh-huh.
my early films, I was in the throes of having a lot of kids. So like my early 2000s is largely kid movies because that's all I watched.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not like a huge Robert Rodriguez fan, but I love the theme of family that he brings to pretty much all of his movies. And I absolutely love it in this one. I think it's just super fun. I think like having Antonio Banderas and as the dad, it's got this like crazy cast of people, and I just really like it. I think the
Mm.
spy elements of it are just goofy and fun, and yeah,
I
it's
haven't
one
seen
I've
that.
watched a shocking number of times.
I
So
haven't
yeah.
seen that one in a long, long time. I do think that it got kind of sullied by the some of the weak sequels that came
Hmm.
after. But I do remember finding that one quite charming. And you're right, the theme of family was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to watch that. That would be a good one for family movie night. I haven't ever done that on my channel.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, good pick. I do have a lot of family films also on my list, so I get that. My number 49 is partly on this list because it was the last movie I watched before theaters were closed
Mm.
during the pandemic, so it kind of has an extra. And I did watch it 3 times in 2020 in the theater, which is really rare. It's Emma
Mm.
from that year. I loved it. I loved all the decisions that she made. I loved the way that the story was kind of told from the perspective of the servants. I thought was very creative and interesting. I loved Anya Taylor-Joy's performance as Emma. I thought she really brought the right kind of energy and the insecurity to the role. I loved Mia Goth as Harriet. She was perfect. Johnny Flynn, oh my gosh, it was so good. And you see him like flailing around on the floor because he's so sad, and it was great. And, the music was great. I just really enjoyed it. And I love my Jane Austen. And so yeah, I have that at 49.
Yeah. So 49 for me is the 2016 film The Founder with Michael
Oh,
Keaton. So I,
oh, the McDonald's one.
yeah, the McDonald's
Okay,
one. And
okay,
I
yeah,
just thought I I grew up outside of Pittsburgh, which is where Michael Keaton's from. And most like he was probably the first like big star that I was just like, oh, he's like a local boy. And so I have this like affection for him, and I really love all of his like 80s movies like Gung Ho and Mr. Mom and all of those. And then he kind of had this resurgence like about a decade ago. And I and of those, like I have a soft spot for biopics and or biopics, depending on who you are. But anyway, but this one was just fascinating to me. Like I think the cast is just really solid in it, and I think the story is fascinating for a very ubiquitous chain that exists
yeah.
in everywhere to kind of like see how people started it and where it went and how all of that flowed through, this character.
Mm,
it's a really interesting story, and yeah,
yeah.
I like it.
Well, my number 48, I actually have Barbie in
I love
48.
Barbie.
Yeah, this is also kind of like my catch-all for all the Barbie movies because I've had such a great experience reviewing them on my channel, and uh, I that's been one of my favorite series to talk about, and then of course this live action film was so much better than I was concerned, but it was so much better than I thought when I worried that it would be.
Yeah.
It had its issues. It wasn't perfect, but it was still very entertaining. I loved the music, and I liked what it was kind of trying to say about how we uh how we put these labels on people, and then what happens when we actually listen. Like, it's so funny to me that some people took it as like a oh, it's a man-hating movie, and I'm like, no, actually, like, she actually listens to Ken at the end. Like, she cares about him. She wants to know what he, like, she actually values what he has to say by the end and apologize. She literally apologizes to Ken
Yeah.
at the end. And so it's about all of these labels that we put on people. And even at the beginning, when the young girl, she just labels Barbie as a fascist, and she's just kind of like, oh, what, so I really enjoyed it. And of course, uh the monologue was iconic about being a woman and how hard it is being a
Mhm.
woman. Of course, and it also looks great and great performances. So it was just super fun, and I just love the whole Barbie franchise in general. And so yeah, it made my list.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my number 48 is the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie from
Oh, that's a
2002.
good one. Yeah.
I love this movie, and it's one of I imagine there were I don't know. I guess it was the first like superhero movie, comic book movie that really like caught my attention, and I just think it is so much fun. I love Tobey Maguire is still my all-time Spider-Man. Like
Hmm.
I've Spider-Man's going to show up here a few times on this list. It's a few.
Yeah,
Um, but just the OG is just it's fun. It's such a great one. Yeah,
a good
I
pick.
love it. I love
A
it.
good pick. My number 47 is actually Elf.
Hmm.
Because I love Christmas movies. I should have said that in my paradigm. But and this one is I think is close. I do have another Christmas movie on this list, but I think that this is as close as we've gotten to like a new Christmas classic in this 25 years.
Yeah.
And and I think what makes it work is that it's just really funny.
Yeah.
I always say funny saves all, and this is just really funny. It has so many good jokes, and I just love when he's like in the coffee shop. Congratulations, you did it! His innocence is really charming, and the fact that everybody in the cast just plays it completely straight. James
Yeah.
Caan does, Mary Steenburgen does, and of course Will Ferrell. That That's what makes it funny, is that
Mhm.
everybody's acting like this is just like a normal situation that's happening. And it's very, of course, very sweet as well. And so yeah, I have Elf at 47.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
47 for me is the Ridley Scott film The Last Duel. This
Oh,
is a
okay.
movie that felt like it just kind of happened and got blown by. It was 2021, and so I think
Yeah.
it was a weird year, of like we're coming back to movies and all of that kind of stuff. And it's long, and I think the marketing for it just was terrible. It didn't really explain what the movie was, but it is just such an interesting film where they take this story and show the perspective from like different characters. So they kind of retell the story, but it's just a little different every time. And
Yeah.
so I love how it like plays with memory and, how events are seen from the perspective of different people. Um, the performances are all excellent. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a movie I wish more people talked about. I don't want to say that it's underappreciated. I think it did well, like critically, but it just feels like a movie that people don't talk about. And it's just one I think about often whenever I think about things like like how we perceive memory and stuff. So, yeah.
The only thing I struggled with that movie was I just don't think they actually needed to show the assault three
I no,
times.
I can agree with that. I
Yeah.
think it's an unnecessary
Like they
thing,
should have
but
just shown it the one time and then all
hmm
of the lead up being different. But that felt it was just it was a little too traumatizing for me.
Yeah,
But
it
I
is.
can
It's a little
understand.
gratuitous, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
Good choice. Okay, so at 46, I have an I don't know, underrated, but it's a movie called Shoplifters. This
Mm.
is by director Hirokazu Korida, who is one of my favorites. I absolutely love his films, and he is so good at bringing like humanity to his characters and making you really feel the emotion of these characters. And this was such a lovely film about this made family, chosen family of these shoplifters that come together and you go on this journey with them. And yeah, beautiful movie. And I think that Corrida, he he's very loved by like folks at like cons in Venice and that kind of a scene and the Criterion and stuff. But I wish that he was more of a name brand that people knew and were like looking forward to his films, because I think he deserves it and his films
Mm.
are on that level. I wish that he had the name recognition of a Bong Joon-ho or even a Scorsese, because I've never seen a bad film from the man. He is just really good, and this is one of his, I think, more approachable films.
Mm.
He also did a great one a couple years called Broker. He did one last year called Monster, which was underappreciated. That
Yeah.
was a Rashomon kind of story from different perspectives. That was great. So he's just a great filmmaker, and this is a really good one from him.
Mm. Yeah. 46 for me is Moonrise Kingdom from Wes Anderson,
Good
the
choice.
2012 film. Uh Wes Anderson's a little hit or miss for me in
Yeah.
terms of his like storytelling,
Yep.
but I love his dialogue. I always think it's really fun because it's just very snappy and not how people talk, but in a good way for me generally. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but this is probably my favorite. Well, not even probably. This is my favorite. Wes Anderson. I love the story of these two kids, and they have these, I don't know, kid horrible lives. I don't say actual horrible, but like kind of maybe sometimes how kids see things being bad. And and they get together and they run off. And I love the way that yeah, plays with like youth and innocence, but also in this kind of adult setting. And I just think it works really well.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
Ed Norton in it. I just think he's funny and great.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's up there for me.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's one of my favorite Wes Andersons. I definitely could have put Grand Budapest Hotel on there as well.
Yeah, that one's great.
I love that one. And his animated films, I really enjoy those.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast. My name is BJ.
And my name is Me Too, and we promise this promo is worth it, so please don't skip ahead.
We're two judgy friends who put our judgmental skills to work for you. We review the pilot episodes of new and popular shows and shows that our listeners request to answer your question, should I watch this?
Look, a lot of us are spending a lot more time at home, and yes, we should be reading and trying new projects and enriching ourselves, but does anything beat binging a great show?
Let us take the guesswork out of deciding what your next show will be. Tune in to The Pilot Podcast at thepilotpodcast.com.
My number 45 is actually where I have Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. This one I think is the best of the franchise, and that clear contrast between Koba and Caesar, and which type of which type of leadership are we going to embrace. I just thought it was like so well done, but it still managed to be fun. You still got apes on horses, you still got like the spectacle that you want. But what really was memorable for me about this movie is Gary Oldman and his performance. It was excellent. And uh when he is able to charge up his palm his iPad thing,
Mhm.
and he is able to see pictures of his children again because they were all on the device, and he just loses it. And not only is it an incredible moving scene, but it really like made me think in a way that not many scenes from a movie have. I never print photos anymore, almost, unless I'm going to frame it for some reason. I never do. It's
Mhm.
all on a device. So if or
Right.
the cloud or whatever, and it's like if you lost that, like I would lose all of my images,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know?
it is. Yeah, that's
And it just
easy to
made me,
forget that.
I never really thought about that before. And it was just such a moving scene, and how you would feel
Mhm.
if you not only you lost your family, but you didn't even have any images, like how you would feel. Oh, it was it was it's just such a good movie. That the second, I mean, the third one was pretty dour and
Mm,
pretty intense, but I still overall enjoyed it. The first one was entertaining, but I just think the second one was really special.
I'd agree with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, good
Mm,
choice.
mm.
Yeah, so 45 for me is Boyhood. It did make my list.
Yeah, it was
Um,
such a tough cut. I
no,
do
I
love
mean
it.
that's
I'm glad it
fair.
made your list.
It's brutal. Like, yeah,
Yes.
some that didn't make it are disappoints, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, Boyhood. And honestly, I remember watching the movie the first time and just being like, I don't know, and just like going through it, and I wasn't sure because I'm like, but they didn't show any of the things that happen. It's everything leading up to the thing that happens.
Yeah.
And then it got to the end, and Patricia Arquette has,
Oh,
yeah, the I thought there would be more. And it just ripped my guts out in a way that I think about way too
yeah.
often in and it's just this incredible, I mean, aside from just the overall like filming of a film over, whatever amount of time, I can't remember how long it
12
was that,
years.
yeah, 12 years that Linkletter did this. And it's like, but to have this moment, which is already a really fascinating, thing, but it's just this beautiful reminder of living in the moment. And that the
Yeah.
big things, yeah, they're going to be there, but like there's so like life is not those big moments, it's the
Hmm.
everything in
Yeah.
between those moments. That's the bulk of what we do, is our job and our
Yeah.
friends and the people we're hanging out with, and just these little moments.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's what
that.
I took from it too. Like I love that scene where he's talking to his boss at the
Mhm.
salad place,
Right.
and that you just have this like little moment, even if it's not your child, to like influence somebody, and
Hmm.
those and what you say and what you do and how you treat people, that it really does actually matter. And that's one of my favorite scenes. I do love it, that ending when she's like, my life is over,
Yeah.
and he's like, I haven't died. Like,
Right.
but but really, for what had been her life for that point, like it's done. She's finished.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
Mm. Good
it's
pick. Great
beautiful.
pick.
It's so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my number 44 is actually where I have Little Women, Greta
Mm.
Gerwig. I
Oh,
love Little Women.
so good.
It was the first book that big book, like that I was ever proud of. Like I
Right.
finished this big book, and and of course I loved it. And I've always felt a kinship to it. I actually have three sisters myself. And I think who doesn't kind of relate Joe, and just wanting that independence and wanting to be taken seriously, and all that, the feelings, and then her relationship with her sisters. And in this, I thought they did a couple things better than any other version that had ever been done. I really thought that the Lori Amy dynamic was the best that I've ever seen, because you didn't really have that much chemistry with Circe, with with Joe and Lori. Like, I was never feeling it, and I thought that because a lot of times it can feel, because Lisa Mayalka was just like trolling her fans. They wanted, Lori and Joe to get together. She got all these letters, and she said, "No, I'm going to put her with this stuffy professor, and make them all mad." And sometimes it can feel a little bit that way. Like, especially, I love the '94 one, but like, like, come on, Christian Bale, really? Like, and so with this one, I just thought they did such a good job with that, of developing Amy's character.
Amy, yeah, especially.
Wonderful performance, and their chemistry was really good, and really it didn't feel like an afterthought of Amy, and we got to put Lori with someone, so let's put him with Amy. So I thought they did a great job with that. I love Emma Watson as Meg, and the whole scene where she says, like, just because my dreams are different doesn't mean they don't matter. And that's a great scene and a great line of dialogue. And the only thing that I would have done majorly different is I do think they kind of underplayed Beth and her dying. Like, I wasn't really crying. I mean, especially who can do better than Claire Danes?
Claire, yeah.
Unbelievable in that 94 one.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm going back to heaven. Like, oh my gosh. But I they could have done a little more with Beth's character. But I still really did enjoy it, and love Little Women. It's going to be hard for any version, except for the modern ones. Those are terrible. But authentic versions, I really do love. I love the story, so I had to make my list.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll say I went into that one like the 94 version was just like, oh.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's gonna be, I can't see me liking this better. And then just the way that she like told the story just in a different, like, kind of out of order way. It was just so well done. Like, I know people were mad that Gerwig wasn't nominated for Barbie, but the real tragedy is her not being nominated for Little Women. That is criminal. Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that I have 2 of her movies on this list today. I didn't even think about that. So there we go.
Yeah. So number 44 is like for me, but it is Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Oh, it's a good one. Yeah. Good one.
Grew up in high school. My best friend and I loved the 1989 TV show of Mission Impossible. It is not good at all, but like, I loved it. It is not streaming anywhere. I cannot find it anywhere. It feels like one of those like lost to media things.
It's a good show.
Bums me out, but it was so much fun, and we would come in every day and we'd talk about it. And so I love most of Mission Impossible, like the series, whenever Tom Cruise came to it. I'm really excited about Dead Reckoning, or not Dead Reckoning. That's
part 2.
Final, whatever chapter. But like Ghost Protocol, I just love the story in that one. I love the score, especially. I think it is brilliantly done in that one. And it's just, of all of them, other than the original, it's my favorite. And since the original's outside of our time frame,
I agree. That
2020s, it's my favorite.
That one is my favorite of the films. Yeah, and I do love the old show. There's so many great ones, like where they're my favorite is one where they basically convince somebody that there's been nuclear fallout, and they like, I mean, they're just really, really good. I wish that the movies embraced the communal, the group aspect of the show. Which there's like a little bit of that, but not as much as they could have had, because you got Tom Cruise and everything. But yeah, really fun, and definitely a good pick. My number 43 is from 2000, so it just got in. It's In the Mood for Love. This is
That's one that didn't make my list and was
yeah.
inches away.
It's a
so
tough one. Yeah,
Mhm.
what an incredible moody atmospheric the characters don't even say very much, but you just what chemistry, what feel, and it's like normally I'm not somebody who likes like affairs and affair movies, but
Right.
like in this case, first of all, their companions or their partners are cheating on them. That's the whole reason they get to know each other. But it's because it's not about that. It's all about the temptation, the
Right.
pull, the back and forth, and what are we gonna do? And if people love Everything Everywhere All at Once, that movie pays great homage to In the
Yeah.
Mood for Love.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my 43 is the only Tarantino movie that made it for me, and it is Inglourious Bastards.
Mm.
It is probably my favorite of his movies. Again, other than Pulp Fiction, which is outside of our timeline. Um, I just think it is funny. I like some of his alternative history kind of stories, and I think this one does it best. Um, I just think Brad Pitt is fantastic in it. He's super fun, and yeah, it's just this gory, absurd movie, and yeah, I just love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. I actually haven't seen that, believe it or not. That's a
Oh,
blind
it's a
spot.
fun, yeah,
Blind
it's a
spot of
fun
mine.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
get it. There are a lot of movies in the world.
Yeah. Well, my number 42 is actually where I have the first How to Train Your Dragon.
Mm,
I love this movie. It is my favorite of the three. The first one is still my
yeah.
favorite. I love the fact that that Hiccup has to make like the very brave decision to not only go against his father, but to go against all of their like customs and traditions, and because he knows what he feels in his heart is right, and it's one thing to go against again you're a parent or a rule of some kind, but to go against everything that your culture believes, like that's really hard. And so I think there's more to this movie than just a boy and his friend, kind of that you see boy and a dog, boy and a dragon, which is done super well, and the flying sequences are so good. The animation is absolutely beautiful. I think it's great.
Yeah, for sure. So
Mm.
we'll just cut and paste that for when it shows up on my list in a
Oh,
couple
is this
weeks.
the
Yeah.
first one that's on your
That's
list
the
that I
first
mentioned?
one. Yep.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
mutual. It's going to
Yeah.
show up on mine as
Oh,
well. Yeah.
good.
But
Okay,
it's
good.
higher for me, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Good.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
So my 42 is Promising Young Woman from
That's a good one.
2020. And it was among one of the first movies I saw coming back. I didn't see it until after it had released. But I love it in part because the trailer did not spoil the movie. And I hate when that happens.
Yeah.
And so I went into it thinking it was one kind of revenge movie to find out that it was not that at all. And I really, really dug the way that Emerald Fennell did that. Like, I just think it's just this really interesting story. I think it talks about the way women kind of like are pursued and how they have to like navigate that, and
Yeah.
how you just navigate just like trauma in general. And I know there has definitely been some issues with the film, and I do understand that, but and the end is maybe a little off the rails, but I just the overall idea of it I just thought was so so good. And yeah, I just it's one that like sticks with me, and I think about it, yeah, again, just more often than I kind of expect to. I think it's just a really
Yeah,
fascinating
and I
story.
feel like so many movies have tried to be this kind of statement about feminism and masculinity and other things like that. And I can't think of one that does it as well as this one.
Yeah,
It
I
makes
think
a
that's
point, but it's still entertaining. It's still interesting. It's still there's some nuance to it. There's some that you can have a discussion about this movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I just it's a thinker, and I think
Hmm.
it does it in a way that I didn't expect, and
Yeah.
that's why it kind of makes the list for me. Is I it surprised me.
Yeah. That's a good one.
So, yeah.
Well, my number 41 is actually where I have Mad Max Fury Road.
Here's our second.
Yeah. I wonder if we have any more. So I have Mad Max Fury Road at 41. I do think it is an incredible achievement. Just
Yeah.
how immersive it is and how incredible the action sequences are. And I think that for people that complain about the plot, like it's really a war movie.
Hmm.
You're going is from one battle to the next battle to the next battle. And if you think about a war movie, is there usually a plot? No, it's the battles. That's the plot. Like
Right.
there's not like outside plot. And I think that's basically what you have here. And I it's just exhilarating. It's an exhilarating experience and an unforgettable one. So it had to make my list.
Absolutely. Yeah. And 41 for me is Parasite from Bong
It's
Joon-ho.
on my
Speaking
list.
of him, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure. It's just uh, I I love a slow burn movie, and this one is just one of the most exquisitely paced
Yes.
films I have ever watched. So you start, and then like every 20 minutes or
Yeah.
so, a thing happens, and it just amps up
Yeah.
the tension. And then another 20 minutes kind of goes, and you're settling into this, and then another thing happens. And just by the end, how you get from the beginning to the end in this
Yeah.
most organic way is brilliant. Like
Yeah.
from just a pacing perspective, I think it is brilliant. And then when you just add like the layers of like class and
Yeah.
all of it's fascinating. Like I think the themes are brilliantly done.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's his
Yeah.
bread and butter. I'm so excited for Mickey 17.
Mhm.
Um, but like, yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
spectacular. Oh,
Like when you talk about like perfect films in the sense of like I would change nothing
yeah,
about
that
this film. And some of my favorite films are very imperfect films, but Parasite, I think it is a perfect film. I would change literally nothing. Like the
yeah.
performances, the pacing, the editing, the everything. And it also kind of like Promising Woman, it has something to say, but it doesn't say it in the expense of entertainment and being and that allows it to say more. We're
Hmm.
because we are and being entertained and we're thinking and we're digesting it and what this is trying to say, and there's a conversation that you can have after it. And also, like, if you find out like the visual effects of this movie, because you think when you're watching, you're just like, oh, it's just a normal movie, right? No, they like completely made this house. The house doesn't
Right.
exist. It's all a visual effect, which like blew
Incredible.
my mind.
Right.
Like that was so incredible. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great movie. It's a masterpiece. It
It
really
is.
is.
It is. It absolutely is. So,
So
yay.
great
Yeah.
pick.
We'll talk about it again,
Oh,
I
that's
guess.
that's a good list of 20 movies that
Absolutely. No,
like
we've got some good
really,
ones. There
yeah.
have been good movies in the past 25 years. It's
Yeah.
good.
So I have Mad Max Fury Road, How to Train Your Dragon, In the Mood for Love, Little Women, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Shoplifters, Elf, Barbie, Emma, and Love, Simon.
Yep. And I have Parasite, Promising Young Woman, Inglourious Bastards, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, Boyhood, Moonrise Kingdom, The Last Duel, Spider-Man, The Founder, and Spy Kids.
Good picks. Good
Yay.
picks. Yeah. Well, let us know what you think of these 10 picks and what would be some on your list, or 20 picks. Let us know what you think and in the comment section or on Twitter, and I'll have a playlist for all of these. You definitely want to be following along as we do it. And it might not be I'm not sure exactly. It's just when we get to record, so we'll let you know. But it'll be fun. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. If you're watching on YouTube, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And Alise, where can people follow you?
I'm Alise Chaffins most places. I am probably most active on Blue Sky and Instagram right now. So
Okay,
that's
great.
probably the best place to find me. But yep, just Alise Chaffins. So
Great.
yeah,
Yes,
awesome.
and that will be all in the description. You should all check it out, and check out over Hallmarkies podcast. Got lots of stuff going on over there, and we have the patron group. That's the biggest way you can support what we're doing, and I try to give some pretty good perks to the patron group. And we have our merch store, and that's a lot of fun. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.